Hello everyone, welcome back to another Beyond All Reason cast. I am Twig, joined by Pradith, and today we've got King of the Hill match that completely redefines what it means to be outnumbered. We are talking 8 kings on the hill facing off against 47 attackers, the largest peasant army we've seen to date in one of these games. But don't worry, this isn't just a steamroll. There's a little twist behind the scenes to keep things spicy, and let's just say the kings have a few extra tools to keep their crowns intact. It's massive, it's chaotic, and by the end only one side will live happily ever after. Also, just a heads up, I'll be casting this one in stealth mode because the baby is asleep next door. So if I sound like I'm narrating a medieval siege from inside a library, that's why. Just imagine the explosions louder, the chaos bigger, and my enthusiasm quietly screaming on the inside. Or just listen to Pradith, who's joining me in this cast.
That's right, we have all bases loaded on this one. There are more players than there are spots, but that's all right. Our intrepid 8 kings are going to do their absolute best. The question is, can the peasants take all of their small forces and all of their small amounts of metal and combine them into one massive force and attack on all ramps at once? Early aggression from this many players would guarantee a win out of the peasants, and a well-held defense would guarantee a win for the kings. No players will have an easy time scaling up on this one outside of that circle.
While we
Jumping
see
into
a breach of the rules about to happen, we will go into the rules. So there is a no rush timer of 10 minutes, which is really just a gentleman's agreement. You can see my line just drawn on the screen. That is the boundary for the peasants, typical around the whole map. And you can just see what happens if you breach that rule. They just disappear units, and that's because we have the friendly support of the moderators helping us with these games, and the kings similarly just cannot go off of that dark patch up the top. Also, no structures are allowed to go and hit any economy, so kings can't go build an agitator up here shooting down. Similarly, you don't want to see a catalyst out of side eye here shooting up into the king's economy, which can definitely reach around that mark there. Okay, what else? 45% bonus for the kings. And there are
no air.
Yeah, no air. That's a big one.
And yeah, 45% for the kings and no air are the main ones. And yes, the kings should be staying outside of those ramps as well.
Very interesting tactics in here. We had quite a number. Let me just select those enemies there. We'll grab one of them. So yeah, a team of 8. You can see the OS there on the right hand side.
Paused. Battle started.
31, 45, 41, 37. So 4 really big numbers there. And then we've got 4 quite low numbers. And the key thing with this King of the Hill map on Raptor Crater, which by the way is inverted, you can see there, excuse me, is that if you have a weak link, that's all it takes to lose this game, because so much of the economy is focused right in the middle of the map there. So you go through one of these bases, you're at the rear of the next person's economy, and you can see these games go from what seems like a calm match to an absolute boom all of a sudden.
Does look like we have comm detonations for both sides, with the orange player absorbing their comm to try and get that lab up. With only a handful of wind on the field, 7, I think that might be a little early, a little premature, but they do have all their mexes up, they do have a nice metal income, and they are overflowing, so at least the rest of the team will be able to make use of that extra infusion of metal. Looking around the map, there are a couple of AllReasonNoLogic regulars. We've got Tank Tom taking one of the frontline positions down the bottom, backed up by Rakusha. And then elsewhere on the map, I think that might actually be all for today. Nope, we got Chronographer at the top over there, who is assisting Pro Praetor to get a very, very fast lab. They're actually they're the first T2 lab in the game.
That's actually classic, just without a commander. You can see the detonation in the corner. So there's a 3-player Commie Eco going on right here. I like that. We've got, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mixes combined to get these guys to T2 faster than the kings, I reckon.
Battle paused.
And they do already have 2 of their T2 mexes, and we're only 4 minutes 40 into the game, which is faster than I think any of the kings have even managed to get a T2 constructor out with. So good on them there for using the tools that they have been given. An overpopulated map can be a positive thing if you let it be. Slight close detonation just happened on the left of your screen just there. A couple of wind go down, but that's not too bad.
You got to make sure that when you detonate your commanders, there's I'll give you a quick little tool tip. If you select your commander, hold down space and hit X. You can see that yellow line that flashes around there. That is the radius of the detonation. If you're Control B or Control D, depending on your key structure, that's the radius that the commander explosion will be. I think you can actually do that with any unit. Actually, just space X.
So we've hit the 5-minute mark for the two different teams. What do you reckon what is your prediction of what is going to happen just based on what we're seeing around the map?
This is one of the games from the stream on Sunday night. Check that out, people. We are streaming most Sundays, either on our channel or the bar's official YouTube and Twitch. But you had said in the stream that despite the fact that there are just so many peasants, they've got the same amount of mexes as what they would if they were like the 30-ish peasants in the usual games we play on this map. And the only advantage they got is they've got more comms to detonate and a little bit more build power out of those comms at the start. You can of course build a few extra of those mexes quicker as well and share your ecos, which we are definitely seeing. But what are we at? 6.5 minutes almost, and the peasants about 150% ahead on metal. That's the key one that we like to look at.
And that's to be expected at this point in the game because there are so many of them. Just the sheer volume of comms means that there 40 comms means an income of 80 metal just out of the gate.
Yeah, not too dissimilar to what the eco looks like in any one of these games. What I am seeing different though is, yeah, the average structure that we're seeing in some of the King ecos, XMF on T2, upgrading all those T2 mexes. Similarly, we've got Meow Land Meow doing the same, going into a fusion. Probably could do with a little bit. Oh, actually, no, that eco's right down low, reclaiming on that.
Yeah, that eco is super stalled. And I really hope that metal storage comes up before the lab is reclaimed, which it looks like it has.
With the 45% bonus, wind's quite low. That's what's happened. You really want to probably see one, maybe advanced solid drop low, down. That will get you
when you only
energy.
have 20, it's a bit of a problem as well.
Yeah, I want to expand on that T1 economy just a little bit longer before going into the fusion. But once that comes up, I mean, with the wind jumping back up to 13 now, there's definitely enough there. But what we don't have enough is build power. None of the kings here. The Pan, I'd actually say, is probably doing this a lot better. You can see Reclaimed Lab obviously has the metal storage and very quickly building that fusion almost perfectly with the metal running out as that finishes, and then going back into the T2 lab. What I probably would have done differently is just put down, with that sort of overflow, 2 converters. And that would have been a really good transition there. They're also going into a bunch of construction turrets ready for static defense to come up for the 2 lanes that they're going to protect.
With 2 minutes to go, there's definitely going to be a little bit of a struggle out of the Kings right now, with many of them still going through their eco phase and just starting to get their T2 labs back out for units. So definitely going to be a bit of a slower start for the Kings, which is not what you want when there are this many peasants around the map.
Yeah, I'm missing a few. No, it's just one metal extractor in the middle that's been missed by the red. Oh, it's what's happened is it's very important that you coordinate as a team. Usually everyone takes the mix at the back to the left or the mix at the back to the right at the start of the game, and looks like one person's mixed theirs, and the knock-on effect is one's been left over. Not to worry. I don't think it's going to fare too well against the Kings. I mean, if they win this, I think I'm legally required to start referring to them as warlocks, because it'll be quite magical.
Something just showing a little bit of newness to the game. The yellow player has decided that they would like to build 100 gauntlets as a defense.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a Raptor's greater. When there's an actual Raptor in the game, that's what you might do, is a bunch of defense. I'm loving what I'm seeing out here just below that base out of the Usurper player, that's his name. A bunch of, we're up to 60 pawns. That should be
Stick to
able to walk
pawns.
straight through these LLTs. And
do we have any aggression coming out anywhere else on the map? It doesn't look like it too much. The pink player does have a large amount of grunts ready to do something similar.
bunch of
And
blitz
actually,
on
the
right.
classic Chrono and Pro Praetor is getting ready for a Jag run by.
Whoa.
That is
But
a lot of
probably
Jag.
the best defense that we can see from the Kings, just there with a whole bunch of twin guards. That's probably the most defended spot in the game for the Kings, and the 10-minute has elapsed. I am not loving how fewer units the peasants have
The
built.
Kings do not have a lot right now, and and in the top right we also have a major force of blitzers. So the bottom right, major force of blitzers coming in. They have made it in with no problems and are heading straight for the base. This is not what you want to see as the Kings, because with everyone so tightly mixed in, one player falling will mean the peasants are getting all the way into the eco. So good amount of aggression coming out of the peasants, and not quite so much coming out of the Kings right now. And it is showing its value, getting into the base, taking out some of the conversion, and there could be the potential for a catastrophic wind collapse over here because of how they were built. Very nice, and nothing back here to defend. Another section of wind ready to rife to be chain reacted. Hopefully we see that going again. Couple more shots. There we go. Chain reaction of the wind over there. And while that's going on, the 60 plus pawns on the other side have started making their way through, and it does look like they're going to get the build power of the Soul Hunters. This is pretty devastating for the
really
Kings.
Nice
Yellow falling in this as well. All of the Kings scrambling just to try and keep the units out of their bases. Not too much economy has fallen beyond some T1 wind, but this still means that the Kings are massively on the back foot, and many of the peasants have seen this happening and are getting themselves in there.
Oh man, really nice what Pan did going into the Salamanders. Real quick to build. It's like a T1.5 tank. Closer they get to their target, the more damage they do. Managed to go across and stop most of this push, but something has happened in the middle of this map, and you guys now need to ignore the top right of your screen where it says the Kings have a very strong economic lead. What the devs have done in this game, they have realized, okay, this is going to be a loss within like a few minutes, and they have dropped a nice little infinite resource bonus for the Kings to try and get back on track. Otherwise this was going to be the quickest Kings game we had seen to date.
Question is, can the Kings make use of that infinite eco? They might have they definitely don't have the build power to do it at the moment, and we'll see exactly whether they can. Infinite resources are good if you can spend them, but otherwise there is still units pouring in, and more areas getting lost to the peasants' onslaught.
Yeah, and you do see as well on the top right, what you can still refer to is that 133% advantage for the peasants in army value right now.
That is a very big deal. And if they actually do manage to get through to that infinite resource aphis in the middle, they could very well destroy it, and that would completely end the game. One thing I just want to quickly point out, the Pan has managed to hold their section and has been assisting for the defenses on either side. Very good job holding out here. Even if they're not able to be on the offensive, they are making sure that their lane doesn't become another problem and allowing everyone else to focus up and try and clear this out. But with so many units pouring in, lots of little bits of damage happening, and it does still look like the Kings are massively on the back foot, with a comm about to go down as well.
The tick kill, the mighty tick.
Oof.
What we are seeing here, I thought that was a Juno. I was going to say Juno's a banned in this game, but we keep seeing them.
It's very hard to police. You just have to
There is
do the absolute best.
Happening on the north here. Oh, and that is some cheeky stuff from Classic. Right on the front line, we've got res bots reclaiming stuff the second it dies.
And that's what you got to do.
Machine.
That is 100% what you got to do. If you want to win this game, you want to be right up there with the reclaim. I've had many of times where I've pushed into the peasants, but because I didn't have a reclaim taking it on the back foot, when they pushed me back off of the hill, when their friends came and rallied to get me off the hill, I gave them back all the metal plus what I had delivered up there to them. Not a good look.
Just getting a nice
Does
little
look like
screen grab
Orange
there.
is doing the best currently at scaling up, the way that they're building their build power to try and minimize chain reactions and utilize all of the turrets that they had pre-existing, trying to get themselves the maximum amount of defense. Question is, can these Zars hold off this Tiger push backed up by Wolverines in time? They're still not on the quickest build, but they are coming out. The Tigers faster than the Zars though, so very possible for them to push fast.
I think the Orange player is probably the only one that's really realised what this unlimited resources means, and all you need to do is get that build power down, and they've gone up to 130 construction turrets.
I would say the red player is also aware, going into a T3 lab and as much build power around it as they can to try and push this back with T3. Unfortunately for the Pan though, a whole chunk of his build power taken out
Chivas is not the
by
best
this
answer
wave
for
of
spam.
ticks. Just want to quickly point out Tank Tom's base. We have some tower defense in front of it. Love that. And just watching all the different tick colors going through. Very nice.
Might even get that as a screen grab. I do like to get my little...
We do have
toss.
another push heading straight into the King's bases though. A large amount of Jaguars and Pawns pushing in from the top section that are making a beeline for that center of the map. A couple of heroic fat boys have stopped that from happening though, and saved most of what's left of the yellow player. Still not a lot though, and it does look like the orange player has managed to get enough Zars to push this back.
60.
Fingers crossed this will get to a stabilized point, and we can and then the devs can take away that infinite resource and try to have this one play out on a reasonably even playing field.
Blitz pushing in on the left hand side from Duke Nukem. If they can just come across this infinite resource here, they got 7,900 hit points, but no, they go down pretty quickly.
Yes, the Zars are doing a great job of clearing out all of this chaff that's making its way in.
Well, people, I don't know if you can see, but at the top of the screen there is an error message, and unfortunately that means that the replay has an error in the file, and we are going to have to switch over to the pre-recorded live cast from last Sunday night. Enjoy the live action.
And here we go, we do have offense coming from the Kings. A massive Zar push is coming out towards the blue player, but we do have a hidden comm. Question is, can this hidden comm do what it needs to do? It started to move. Does it have the energy? It does have the energy. It's getting right into the middle. Let's see those D-guns. Let's see those D-guns. Oof, just a comm explosion. So not quite enough to clear that out, but we do have the big offensive power. And on the other side, similar story, but there is so many grunts pushing down this. They're actually keeping the T2 at bay. Pounder's a great addition to this, will help clean up those pawns, but we do have more and more grunts pushing into the middle, trying to be held off by the salamanders. This game has turned into complete and utter chaos. I think that the Kings are totally reliant on this one piece of eco-infrastructure in the middle, and if that falls, it's going to be game over. And if they try and take their foot off of the pedal to try and get themselves some additional eco, then they're going to be in a terrible spot. Good D-guns out of Viking Child, trying to clear up these Zars. One does survive, but it is going to have to fight another Zar going into there. Orange has really taken over this game. Meow Land Meow has done a great job of scaling up this build power, and if you look at the way the build power has been spread out, it won't chain react, which is really important in this situation.
Yeah, wow, 201, and I think we've got some Scorpions to defend XMF's economy, but we need to build them in the middle where the real economy is at one unit. Although no one probably knows about it. Nice and sunk in that hole. This is winnable. I think this is quite winnable now for the Kings, unless one unit disappears.
I think that the Kings have been helped along quite hard by that infinite resource, and they have managed to
if they make it take away at some point, but
yes,
if they take it away, there is just no eco.
Yes. But it does. It is at least an interesting scenario. But yes, at some point that will either need to be taken away, or the Kings will likely win. Though we are getting some very strong players starting to come online in the corners. Massive amounts of units just starting to pour in, and the Tsar pushes have been held, and they are being stopped by Banishers, Quakers, and other such units. So the push out has effectively stopped in a lot of areas, but the T3 push out on the bottom side is running quite strong. Does look like they're going to get into the base. Oh, that's so close to a chain reaction. All of that wind only got the one shot on, so it didn't quite chain react. If one more goes into that wind, if one of those wind explode, yes, there we go. There's the chain reaction we love. All of the winds popping off into each other. If you are interested in seeing how to stop that from happening, there is a short on YouTube I can recommend you.
Just search AllReasonNoLogic on YouTube for that one. There's about 20 shorts there, just some basic tips for newer players and those that need some reminding of the silly stuff you can do in the game.
Yes, but looking around the map, these Tsars are doing a great job in pushing their way out, but there is no spam accompanying them, there is no radars, so they are forced to fire at a pretty close range. Does look like we've got good use of the Quaker sieging all of this area and preventing those ramps from falling. The pot has done the pan has done a great job in holding
these tremors are becoming the new MVP of King of the Hill. The amount of damage they do, and ever since the update, I think the damage went up by about 100.
Tank Tom getting some great D-guns, going to lose his comm for the D-guns, but still getting a great D-gun there and cutting off the supply. But with this much build power and this much T2, it does look like Red is going to be pushing out, as is Orange, and getting some of these peasant players down. Huge influx of units starting to make their way down from the bottom right hand side, but there is currently enough to stop this. Tons of salamanders, decent at taking out all of these T1 units, and the tremors changing directions and firing at the ramps to try and slow down some of these pushes. Having a look over here, the Shivas have managed to punch through. Their Thor is not going to come out in time, I don't think, and this is going to be the fall of this corner's eco.
Very interesting what's happening on is that Shango 10, a bunch of gauntlets in the middle of the map.
That is,
and they've picked off Chronographer's commander, which goes pop.
Yes. The infinite resources are gone from the center of the map, by the way, so the Kings are back to running under their own steam, and they do not have the energy to do this. So what is left? So if the peasants can beat what is left, this should stabilize into a much more even build. And it does look like the ticks coming out from the shared eco up the top here that managed to of Classic have pushed their way, are pushing their way in. There are some defenses to contend with, but I think there will be plenty of holes. So the peasants just need to hold on and survive just a little longer.
This is good that it's been taken away. The army value is very much in the favour still of the red team, so they need to play a little bit defensively with what they've got left though. Red probably could send a bunch of res bots to reclaim an absolute bucket load of metal down the bottom of the map. We've got over 30,000 down there. And the pan, wow, just absolutely annihilating everything with those.
I heard you like the rain.
Oh, wow.
Oh dear. Still, it looks like the Tsar push on the right hand side isn't going to be able to punch through. It's only the red here that is getting slowed down and stopped, and the orange up in this top side. There are some snipers coming out to try and deal with these. I think there is enough to clear this out, but huge damage has been done.
I think we'll see a little bit of a change in direction of where this is going. The economy is slowly coming back online. Red now going into a bunch of aphists, and Orange doing the same thing. Probably be an idea to reclaim some of these T2 labs to fund it, or just get those res bots out actually.
Yes. Oh man, the players
There's an aphid down in the corner as well that can be resed.
the players in the bottom of the bottom right of the or bottom middle of the map, they need to get some units on these tremors. That is so much firepower that's raining down on them. But if they can just get in close to them, they should be able to take them out. But need to be able to get there to do it.
Classic with 16 Starlights coming up, supported by Spam. So those three players, the co-op eco is potentially going to pay off here. And it's going to be a matter just of a few nice chain reactions through all this build power, and all we need to do is get to those 3 Aphises that Orange has.
But as I mentioned before, all the build power is decently well separated, so it will not entirely chain react, which I really do like seeing that. And if you're newer to the game, or if you don't play like this, if you look at the structure of how this was done, the labs are spread out, the build power is spread out, and things shouldn't overly chain react. Really like seeing that.
I think the Starlights are the answers to this. What is the response?
But the Tremors are coming out to stop the Starlights. And
yeah.
Tremors do
They
outrange
outrange
those Starlights, I'm pretty sure. The
And
Zars
Starlights,
do...
they aren't bunched up at least, because they Starlights, you got to remember, if you have Starlights in a pack, they will chain react to each other and do a lot of damage.
Yes.
A few of them being pulled back there.
An entire line of gauntlets trying to defend the left side as well. But yes, the peasants have swung back into this to quite a hard degree. They managed to survive the massive push out, or some of them did, and now they are making their way back in. This is going to be orange red against the world. Sorry, orange, red, and cream against the world. Though looking at Schangotten, they have, sorry if I'm butchering German, my apologies. They've managed to get themselves 2 Aphis, 2 Fusion, a bunch of Conversion, and they're starting to build up units as well. So definitely a lot of potential here too. But they're going to have to compete with the mega power, which is this blue corner, that is pushing their way in with snipers, starlights, and anything that they've got left. Though it does look like a lot of those starlights were cleaned up. They are
FYI. I think that's a Dutch flag. Or Belgian flag.
Is it? Apologies.
You are German, you know, by heritage. In case you didn't know. Just to remind you.
I'm not the best at this. So, something which is happening here, the Starlights are just firing into the units that are so close to so much build power. They're not concentrating their fire, and they're not actually able to put enough damage in that it isn't completely repaired before their next shot. So there's not going to be much of a break here, but it does look like the Sheldon Ball and all of the additional T2 and T1 spam units are going to start breaking this gauntlet line, and if they get into that build power, it's going to be a problem. Red trying to cut them off at the pass by sending in tons of Tiger tanks, but there are plenty of Starlights in the mix to be fighting in on that.
I think this team definitely got a little bit too comfortable with that unlimited eco in the middle. Surely they didn't think that was going to stay there the whole time.
We do have
definitely a much needed unit.
Yes, it did. It certainly put them back on a moderately equal playing field, but they are still at a metal disadvantage, and they do have a lot of fields to cover. We've got, and the Res army is coming through to gut them from behind.
The eco is actually still pretty similar to what we see in games. They're about 50% in disadvantage at about this stage of the game. It isn't that dissimilar to that usually, anyway. Probably because half the map of peasants is dead.
There we go, mass conversion down for the orange player, and that sinks their economy by 600 or 700 metal. And this was all done by reclaimed units and a couple of vanguards going for the Aphis boom. We'll see exactly if they can, but they're currently getting tremored. Huge damage done by these Tremors. Tremors and Zars MVP of this particular match. Does look like the Zars will manage to get the damage done here onto them if they actually choose the right targets to fire. Vanguard, one final shot, takes down that Aphis, and it chain reacts big chain react onto the Maroon player, loses all of their build power and their conversion. So now we are just down to the conversion of the Pan and the red player XMF.
These vanguards retreating. They were picking a fight with a bear in its own den, but knowing when to back out. Everyone
Got to
pushing
keep
their
them.
strength over to the biggest risk.
Got to try and keep all of your units intact as the peasant players, because it is always harder to remove. But we do have a 3 times, actually about 2.5 times, eco advantage to the peasants. The problem is that the kings really can focus down in just one place at the moment. A huge amount of that is coming down onto this area where it's just incisors trying to bully their way through into the top left side of the map.
3 kings left with commanders only, and XMF has theirs down in the base of the map, so we could potentially see only 2, which are quite close to each other, but quite
you know
protected in the Panton's base.
I really like this, getting as much metal as they can, even if that comm is lost, as long as it reclaims more than its fair share of metal. However, there is a pretty safe area to reclaim metal over here, and it does look like Chrono is in the king's base reclaiming metal with a commando, which is funny to me.
Razorbacks all over these tremors at the moment, nothing to defend them.
Oof.
And picking them off one by one.
These are tremors are very expensive. I think they're $13.50. Actually, I can click on a building and check.
Oh, the demons coming over to clean them up. Demons do take on a Razorback 1-on-1 quite well. I think one demon actually beats 2 Razorbacks.
That would be quite interesting to see. I think it'd be close either way. But yes, that the huge amount of tremor defense has been cleaned up, and it does look like the kings are back on their last ropes, because the tremor offense from the peasants is now here, and those tremors are starting to pick away at these bulwarks. A good choice on the bulwarks, getting those up to defend. They have held this area for a very long time with that build power managing to keep them alive, but now that the concentrated firepower is here, going to start to struggle. But lots of Zars coming out, and we will see exactly
it in, but are they going to get to the APHIS?
All those ticks. And this is what I was talking about with defenses scattered throughout the base. If you can get enough defenses scattered through the base, you can prevent this. Does look like those ticks get taken out by the one remaining gauntlet and I think it was a pop-up over on this end. Good job with those scattered defenses.
I don't know who's going to win this now.
This has become quite close, yeah. It should be the peasants.
Definitely helps the kings don't have the full circle to defend anymore.
Yes. I think if the peasants were to send some stuff in to get more... Actually, whichever team
over here at
more.
Razorback attacking the pan, and we're out around the eco center. If that last APHIS gets some damage on it, they are targeting that one, and there it goes. Nice attack. Very nicely done.
That is another hole opened up, and another big
left
area.
side streaming on in.
Yep, top side of the map, we've got that gauntlet that saved the APHIS still, that's just been taken out, and now all of those grunts are on that last APHIS. There is still a bunch of pop-ups to defend, but so long as they position themselves just right, doesn't manage to get the APHIS. Good defensive angles right there, but more units streaming on in.
What I can't see out of the Kings is a counter-intrusion measure system, so we could see some stealth tanks used at some point.
You know what? We haven't seen that all day today. That's crazy. Normally these games are heavily influenced by a counter-intrusion.
Another Razorback coming through. There are a lot of Scorpions coming up, so very much need spam to go in with anything here.
But if it can stay outside the range of the bulwark, it may be able to get just enough damage, because that Rafus it's in the red. It's going to get it. It's definitely going to get it. Doesn't chain react
nice
though.
chain.
It has to push
Get the next one.
Get the next one.
Can we get the next one?
Doesn't look like it's going to. No, the bulwark's a little bit too strong here. But we do have a lot of units coming in, and we do know that the pop-up turrets are fantastic for defending against things like those Razorbacks.
I don't see anything stopping
That's
these
a lot of
vanguards.
fiends.
Yes.
High arc trajectory. If we hit the build power, these axes.
Where are the vanguards? Sorry.
There's a couple over on the right-hand side. Oh, there's only one actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see those vanguards. These are the 2 that escaped earlier. they're not helping at the moment. It is a resed one that is coming up to take on an advanced fusion. Is there enough healing to outdo the damage with the tremor, with the additional firepower? I don't think so, but the demons are coming in to clean this one up. So it does look like those will live to fight another day, and defenses...
They definitely know where it is.
Yes. Defenses are being moved to try and deal with this. Some Zars are being
Demons coming
sent
through
to
the pan stones. I'm about to see another Aegis pop.
Oof.
There goes the Pan's base. That was probably one of the most valuable players we've seen tonight, with those demons being very defensive.
Yes.
Early with the Salamanders. Salamanders did a lot of work early. They do more damage. Oh, there we go. We've got
That is a resign out of
Yep.
the red team. Absolutely great. They did a great job with what they had. Unfortunately, not enough defenses at that 10-minute mark. A big thanks to the mods for chucking that infinite resource generator into the middle just to keep it interesting. But phenomenal work from the Kings to recover that, but even better work from the Peasants for not letting it overwhelm them and managing to scrape out the win anyway. We can look
You can
at...
see on those damage dealt graphs and just those three key players. They're doing all the work for the Kings. Very nicely done to XMF, the Pan, and I forgot who the other player was. Meow Cat Meow.
Yes. Unfortunately, we won't be able to use much of the metal produced graph because the infinite resources kind of skews that one just a little bit. If we have a quick look at the damage dealt, though, you can definitely see the players that utilized those resources and got in, but you can also see the power of the Peasants co-oping around the outside and getting so much damage into the middle. Metal produced does not show anything, same with energy, because of all of the amount that was poured in.